Topic 11 is about the emerging ethical issues. At the end of this topic, students should be able to identify the individual investor in the securities market, understand the relationship between ethical management and managed care, and also the relationship between business ethics and information age, describe corporate policy and ethics of competitor intelligence gathering. Ethics has become a way of life and is found in all activities like securities market, healthcare, and information technology. Its application and management requires expertise, and just as marketing management or financial management, ethical management is also an important function. As technology develops, new ethical concerns are felt and new policies have to be formulated in order to keep pace and go ahead with time. Many financial frauds happen in securities markets every day. We come across news of insider trading, misappropriations, and mismanagement of funds. The most vulnerable people here are the small-time investors, who are the worst affected. Providing health is a basic function, and many unethical practices are found in this industry due to commercialization of the services. Internet and cyberspace give more scope for unethical practices simply because there are no international laws, and prevailing laws and moral standards are new and still in their developmental stage. This very same internet usage can create other problems like trade secret leakage and unfair trade practices. Organizations have to protect their intelligence being gathered or acquired by using costly devices and even show mistrust in employees. This may result in employee displeasure and price rise for consumers. So tackling these emerging ethical issues is a Herculean task for corporations. First and foremost, let us look at the individual investor in the securities market and identify the ethical analysis of it. Securities markets are full of pitfalls for individual investors. Fraud and regulatory violations in the markets are common in spite of Securities Exchange Commission regulations. Is there a moral ground, just like preventing consumers from buying highly dangerous drugs, to prevent individual investors from buying highly risky financial instruments? The question raises a number of issues. Exactly what kind of investor are we talking about? Do all investors have a right to invest in the securities market? If so, what kind of right do they have? What sort of justification might be offered for restricting access to the securities market for some classes of investors? If some investors are restricted, how should it be done? To answer the first issue, the sort of investor frequently mentioned is the small investor. For the sake of easy definition of a small investor, he is the one who is relatively at high risk, where the risk is a function of the probability of a certain market even occurring and the degree of harm the investor would suffer were the event to occur, and who is relatively unsophisticated about the functioning of the market and hence unapprehensive of the degree of risk they face. To answer the second issue, a risk investor has a right to invest in the market, and this right follows from the classic right to freedom. Any interference with this right, whether by some individual or government agency, is unjustified. Hence, the numbers of such risk investors are large due to the sheer number of investors and the increasing complexity of the securities market. The third issue has the answer that one kind of justification that might be proposed is paternalistic. It is interfering with a person's actions or preferences by restricting their freedom of action or the range of choices normally available to them for the reason that such a restriction promotes or preserves their own good, welfare, happiness or interests. One controversy is that it may be impossible to find out just what the good or welfare of an individual investor is. If risks were eliminated, the very nature of investing and of the markets would be irrevocably changed, and the consequence of such a change would be disastrous for everyone. So, a reasonably permissible activity is one that does not impose undue risk of harm on those not participating in the activity, is such that eliminating the activity altogether would place excessive limits on personal freedom, is such that there are procedures in place for controlling and minimizing unreasonably risky which are associated with the activity. The answer for the last issue is to provide at-risk investors with all the information they need to make investment decisions by providing information that there is no infringement of any rights, and also to apply norms that are stringent to receive such information. It is already a function of the SEC, that is the Securities Exchange Commission, and it is a direct way to discover that investors would consent to restrictions. Hence, instead of imposing regulations based on what investors would do, were they to have all the relevant information, it is preferable to give them the information whatever possible and see what they actually do, and to protect at-risk investors would be to impose product liability concept in the financial market. Now to move on to the coexistence of ethical management and managed care. Oxymoron is words or phrases that have a precise dictionary meaning that may be interpreted as meaning exactly the opposite of what it is intended for. One such term is business ethics. As the only ethical principle that businesses hold is that their desire to achieve the highest level of profit regardless of the cost. To discuss the context under what healthcare organizations are now operating, biomedical ethics has to be understood. In practice, persons employed as healthcare providers or working in healthcare organizations have traditionally been faced with a graver set of ethical concerns than have persons who work in other services or manufacturing industries. There are 4 philosophies to this: respect for others, truth-telling, confidentiality, and fidelity. Beneficence, balance benefit and harm. Non-maleficence, providing benefit at the same time doing no harm. Justice, dealing with equitable distribution of benefits and costs among individuals, groups, and organizations. Ethical conflicts in for-profit managed care are common because the resources. Physicians are provided financial incentives to minimize resource consumption and see as many patients as possible in a given period of time. Wealth. By denying access to tests and procedures, are costs controlled even though the patient will likely benefit from the test or procedure. Equity. Recent studies suggest that the poor and the elderly have worse outcomes in the managed care than in traditional fee-for-service arrangement. To avoid such conflicts, a proposed model for ethical management of managed care can be developed. This model should provide public and private subsidy of healthcare, employer-sponsored health insurance, which is a tax-free benefit, federal law to prohibit patient dumping, and IRS granting tax exemption status to non-profit healthcare organization. The next concept is business ethics and information age. In this information age, new ethical and business issues are to be faced, and some of them are listed below. The first point is that the IT head in the sand syndrome. Taxation and legal jurisdiction are at question. Hence, the offences are growing and control and monitoring is becoming difficult, as it is in everybody's job and also it is nobody's job. Point number 2 is the abdication of IT ethical responsibility. When there are technical snags, program malfunctions, it is no one's responsibility, but the machine is responsible, thus passing the buck on to an inanimate body that can have no ethical values. Point number 3. Where are the business ethics when you need them? The new age has still to make an impact on the society as to the ethical issues related to the expectations and realizations are not keeping pace with the growth phenomena. The fourth point is surmounting the information nexus. Information is useful data, and its reliability, accuracy, truthfulness are at stake. Point number 5 is confronting the communication complex. Information without communication is useless, and communication without information is empty. The reality is that the overload of communication and information is shared without peer review, editorial overview, in the name of freedom of expression. Sixth point says about information privacy. This results in identity theft, credit card theft, psychological, financial or physical harm. Spam mails, invading privacy of emails are in the increase. Also increase in the infringement of intellectual properties. The next point to understand is the corporate policy and ethics of competitor intelligence gathering. Though competition is an important part of running a business, there are ethical limits to the types of competitor information that may be acquired, on the methods that may be employed to acquire it, and on the purposes for which it may be used. The use of ethically questionable techniques for collecting information has increased trade secret litigations. Some questionable methods of acquiring intelligence are those involving deceit or some form of misrepresentation, those involving attempts to influence the judgment of persons entrusted with confidential information, particularly the offering of inducements to reveal information, those involving covert or unconsented to surveillance. There is increasing security needs to tighten information security by building walls, installing security system, purchasing sophisticated counterintelligence technology, and institution-managed techniques to reduce the risk of information leakage. All this will result in increased cost, operational inefficiencies, stifle creativity, and reduce employee morale and public confidence. The increase in security needs is due to dearth of corporate guidance where proper code of conduct or ethical policies are lacking. Victims are either unaware that they are being targeted or lack evidence to prove legal recourse is not available for all violations, and management to certain extent cannot be blamed due to performance pressures. This would be the end of chapter 11, and we shall now be moving on to the concluding chapter, chapter 12, which is the moral corporation, and let us reflect the challenges. Thank you.